No. Come on, where is it?
Dave, it's your Idaho Central app here. Any chance you're missing a debit card? Let's get that taken care of for you. With ICCU's card control, you can turn any card off with the tap of your finger.
You've got it.
And back on again. Out. The closest Idaho Central Credit Union branch is in your pocket.
Pow day.
Dude, let's go.
This is Bronco Nation News Live. The best interviews, the most informed opinions, the latest breaking news, all from the top Boise State insiders. Bronco Nation News Live from BroncoNationNews.com is presented by RowPaint.com, the official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics. All Bronco Nation news broadcasts come from the Western Collective Studios. Head down to Western Collective's locations in Garden City or downtown Boise to try some of their delicious beers, including the Horseshoe Golden Ale, the first beer to support an NIL collective. Now, here's four-time NSMA Idaho Sports Writer of the Year, BJ Rains, with another edition of Bronco Nation News Live.
Hey, how we doing? Welcome on in. Bronco Nation News Live here at BroncoNationNews.com. My apologies for being a couple minutes late today. Maybe someday in the next few weeks, months, I can tell you what I'm working on, but I can't right now. I'll just say that. But fun stuff going on in the BNN offices, and got some guests in town, and just one of those mornings. So apologize for being a couple minutes late. We got Michael Callahan, former Bronco. We got Brad Bedell, former Boise State offensive line coach. Both of them joining us on a Wednesday here to talk some offensive line and some other topics. But gentlemen, sorry for being tardy. How are we doing this morning?
Good. I was late too, so
I got extra coffee, so I'm good.
There you go. I didn't want to blame Brad. Brad Bedell's the real reason I'm starting late. I wanted him to wait till he was ready to go. No, just kidding.
Everybody else blames me for shit, so let's just move on.
Well, we'll still try, keyword try, to end on time today, and I apologize again for being a couple minutes late starting here. We are waiting. I know I mentioned it in my tweet. There is a little bit of basketball news coming. They are adding another player to the roster. If you're familiar with our shows and talking about it, there's been a point guard they've been trying to land, a international prospect that they've been trying to land, and my understanding is that went through and is finalized and should be happening here in the next few minutes. So we'll keep an update on that. But basketball team still adding to their roster, hard at work, and they have one more player they are looking to add. But we're going to talk mostly football today. We're down to our final three in our 25 most important players to the Boise State football team here in 2025. And we are at an offensive lineman. And I mentioned this last week, but we've kind of moved the days around a little bit so we could talk with positions and guys that our guests are familiar with. And we have got number 3 today, which is Kage Casey, offensive line, obviously, and chance to be a high draft pick next year, and came back and all that good stuff. Saw him at the BNN happy hour event on Thursday night. I was up there on stage interviewing him for a while, and he just looks as locked in and rock solid and ready to go. And so we're going to get the coach's perspective, the offensive line coach, the defensive lineman's perspective that's practiced against Kage. And I know you didn't maybe line up against him a ton, Mike, but just obviously being on the other side and seeing him. And so I think it's going to be a fun discussion today. But number 3, I mean, if you're going best, best player, I mean, he's probably number 1 on the list, maybe. If you're just going NFL talent, future, whatever. But in terms of importance to the team, I think we still have Maddox Madsen to get to. We have one other player as well, but obviously a huge responsibility at left tackle for Kage Casey. And Coach Bedell, we'll start with you. Just potential first round pick. We've seen him come up on some mock drafts, first, second round. Could have got money and gone elsewhere and made a lot more money, but came back, and obviously a nice place for Boise State's offensive line to have a left tackle like Kage Casey to anchor things for you.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Well, first of all, I think he made a great decision by coming back, to be quite honest with you. I think that with him and his development, and I saw him at the pro day, and the way he looks is different now than it was last season. So, he's gotten back in that weight room and continue to develop strength-wise and things like that. He's a big dude. Like, I don't think you understand, like, when you're on the field, like, BJ, you know this, and I know you know this, is when you're in the stands and you're like, that's Kage Casey. And they're like, yeah. He's like, God, he's big. But all of a sudden you stand up next to him and you look at him, you're like, dude, that is a big dude. It's not – and he's not sloppy. He's not fat. He's lean. He looks like an NFL offensive lineman. Broad, big shoulders, big arms, thick lower half. But I think just overall in his development with Keen and all that, I think it's smart coming back for another year. And he came back because, one, he loves it here, or he would have taken off. I know of 3 schools that are almost going to pay him $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So he got the hometown discount. He is this year's Genty, to be quite honest with you. Just when it comes to NIL and being able to bowl and do all that, right? He's not going to be, we'll go over this. Offensive linemen aren't going to be Heisman finalists unless you're Orlando Pace. Okay, I like Kage Casey. He's not Orlando Pace. But the way he played last year he was dominant, flat out dominant. There's a reason he was in 87 in pass protection, didn't give up a sack last year. And so that ranks him in the top 10, actually 7th best in the nation. So, when it comes to pass protection and overall dominance in the run game, I mean, he's it. I talked to Dooley about him, and it's like you don't have a worry when you're playing next to that guy. It's like all you got to do is set up the 3 technique, and all of a sudden that guy goes from here to here in a lot of time. And I think there's some other things. When you got into when he went up against the elite pass rusher at Penn State, he won some battles. He gave up a little bit of a pressure. He lost some battles, that's when you're going against national and first round talent. You're not going to win every single one of it. But, he held his own. And then I think he really settled into that game and played really well after, I would say halfway through the first quarter, because that speed of that game when he went to that guy, you don't see that all the time. And it's hard to mimic a first. Would that kid go? Number 2, and then they hurt him, so he got the hell out of town. So I think it's smart for him coming back. I think body type wise, he's a fit for the National Football League. But I think that's putting the cart before the horse too. I think he needs a solid year this year. I mean, all these kids need solid years, but I just think he is prime. I think I'm kind of upset, and we'll see what happens here a little bit. And we've had some great offensive linemen come through Boise State, and none of them have really gotten the national recognition of the national awards. I'm really hoping Casey's got more. He was a first-team All-American last year. He's going to have a lot of hype going into this season, so I kind of hope that he gets on some of the national awards, the Remington or the O Lineman of the Year or the D-line or whatever. And I just kind of hope that happens for him. He's got the most hype with all these old linemen that have come out of Boise State.
And they've had, I think the streak was 6 or 7 in a row that just ended, Brad, where the last 7 multi-year starters at left tackle going back to Darren College, all got drafted. I mean, you go down the line, and there was, I think it was 6 or 7, and
John Ojukwu broke it. Yeah, it was John Ojukwu. He didn't get drafted.
And he's still in there, by the way.
Yep,
I didn't get drafted.
He's still on the roster. Yeah. But I mean, you go back to whether it was Ezra and going back further and all those guys, Charles Leno Jr. There was 6-7 of them just going through the line. Reese Odiombo, right? There's all these guys. And so that was one of the things that, and I'll let you jump in here in a second, Mike, but that was one of the things that Tim Keene said when we talked to him like last month, like, hey, he sees that list. He sees it. Like you can now it's now what running backs are going to be saying, like with Genty, like you can be a first round pick at a running back by coming to Boise State. Like you can, if you're an offensive lineman and you're Kage Casey, he's like, well, they've already had first round picks at Boise State. They've had the number 12 pick in the draft at a left tackle, Ryan Clady at Boise State. Like, why do I need to go somewhere else to make a little more money when I can do what I need to do here and then be a first round pick next year and make my money then? Like, he made the smart decision. And that's what Tim Keene was kind of saying. Like, Kage Casey saw it's already happened here. You do what you need to do this year, and that's going to be you. You don't have to go somewhere else to get that visibility or to get that. And he had the good head on his shoulders to say he wanted to stay, and it's going to pay off for him.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And Mike, we'll get to you. Hold on, let me say this.
Good.
How smart is he? He's very mature. I mean, we know that. He's very mature. It's not money now, it's money later. You can take and make a lot of money now or have generational wealth later. And he's smart enough to realize that and understanding. If you're recruiting or you're in the portal trying to get kids out of Boise State and you're attacking running back or offensive line, you are really stupid to say, well, we can come and do first-round pick. No, Boise's got you. Sorry, you may have a little bit more of them, but it doesn't matter. A first-round pick's a first-round pick. And it doesn't matter where you go. The National Football League has hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars for scouting, and they'll find you.
And I will say this, when I talked to Kage Casey at the they had a media day before the Fiesta Bowl, Mike, remember that, kind of at the big ballroom there at the hotel, and all the players were kind of spread out around the room, and some had, bigger podiums than others, and everybody had a spot there, and it was just an hour free for all where the media could come up and ask any question. It was one of the best days of my life. I mean, no media guy saying, no, can't talk to him. Nope. Just whoever you want, go for it. It was great. That's how sad my life is, by the way. That was one of the Kage Casey was kind of sitting there by himself, and he was one of the big stories that a lot of people were wondering about what's going to happen to him next year and all this stuff. And I went up to him and that was, December 30th, December 29th, whatever day the media day was. And he was like, basically already told me that he was coming back to Boise State that day. He's like, oh yeah, no, I'm happy here. I think, it's not all about the money for me, all this. And he said something about coming back next year to college. And I said, oh, you said college, you didn't say Boise State. And then he's like, oh no, it'll be Boise State. Like he already pretty much had decided, like even though he got those offers and got all that, it doesn't seem like he was a guy, at least from what I can tell, that like seriously entertained that or really was trying to dig around and see what's the best deal I can get. Like they reached out to him and they offered him, but it seemed like he all along wanted to stay and planned to stay, and it worked out and he stayed. But in terms of the kind of person he is, Mike, tell us about him as a person and just as a teammate and from that perspective, him wanting to stay here.
Yeah, he was at no point during the last few months that I was in the building with him, I never felt like he was a flight risk. And he, like Coach was saying, there were some big freaking offers coming his way that he didn't really second guess. I mean, he was just kind of turned him down pretty quick and was fully committed to coming back here for another year. So Kage is absolutely, he should be the next first round offensive lineman from Boise State, in my opinion. I think that he's the best talent that we've had in 6 years. I think that he's right up there with like the Ezra Cleveland. I think that he's just, like Coach was saying too, seeing him at Pro Day this year, I was talking to him. He switched to Lane Johnson's diet. He's eating beef at like 5 o'clock in the morning, like 5 times a day, because he wants to be like 320 pounds at like 15% body fat or something stupid like that, which I can never wrap my head around, but I believe it with him, and he's probably getting close to that right now. So whatever his maximized physical output was last year, it's going to be way crazier this season with what he's able to do on a football field, especially going into year 3 as a full-time starter at Boise, because I think 23 was the first year. Yeah. So being that veteran presence on the offensive line, and he's a little bit more of a quiet dude, but I can definitely see him stepping up and taking over, a leading by example role for him this year. And, just at the end of the day, like if you want to see what it's supposed to look like, these guys can just look at Kage Casey and see a future first-round NFL offensive lineman that's probably going to play close to 10 years in the NFL, and they can see what they need to do.
And we'll get into some of his numbers here in a minute. But Brad, I mean, he started all 14 games as a redshirt freshman. Can you pretty much, as an O-line coach, I mean, I know guys develop at different stages, guys emerge, there's other guys playing in front of them at different positions, I get it. But at offensive line, like, can you tell pretty early on body type, size, and what they can do, like whether or not they've got a chance at the next level? Or I mean, when he's starting 14 games as a redshirt freshman, was that a pretty good sign right away that, okay, this guy's got a shot here to be something special?
Yeah. You just don't do that. Not at that position. You just don't. You play that many snaps. And not only that, how many snaps he's played over here. Last year he played 947 snaps. I mean, now we talked about a lot of injuries up front that happened last year, but he's your mainstay.
Who was the lineman that we all thought was going to play left tackle, but Kage Casey did so good in the spring or whatever, they just left him there and left whoever it was at right tackle. Do you remember, Mike? In 23,
it was Ethan Card from Texas Tech.
It was a returning starter like an Ojukwu or somebody. I thought that like it was somebody that was
Beresford.
Cade Beresford. Everybody just thought he would move over to left tackle that second year. That's right. And then it was just like, nope, Kage Casey did such a good job during spring ball and whatever. No, he's this guy special. So yeah, you had a Power 5 transfer that had started, and it just started every game at right tackle for Boise State. And they said, nope, you can stay at right tackle. Kage Casey is a redshirt freshman, is going to be our starter at left tackle. Brad, that should have told a lot of us right then and there what we needed to know.
Yeah, it should have told you that that's his home position. And rightfully so, right? I mean, Cade went on, had a successful career after transferring to Washington State. And then obviously Cage is doing A-okay.
No doubt. No doubt. And some of the numbers, by the way, are just super impressive. I mean, I'm going to just briefly go over some of this. But I mean, he was a 3-star recruit. He was the 100th ranked tackle prospect, according to 247 Sports in the Nation. Did get in for 40 snaps during that first redshirt season. As we said, started all 14 games at left tackle. That first year was second team All Mountain West as a freshman, was a second team freshman All-American by The Athletic. And then, had an even better sophomore season, was named first team All-Mountain West, second team All-American last year by multiple news outlets. And as you said, with the health and all that, that has not been an issue at all. He's been able to stay healthy. And I'm reading Nathan Carroll's article here. He said, it was funny because I texted you, Brad, I think the screenshot of the text I had with Nathan, and he's, does a good job looking at the numbers. And we've talked about this, Michael, the PFF numbers aren't always, what they are in terms of being good or bad or whatever. And he literally said, maybe the most one, he texted me this after he sent me the Kage Casey article, maybe the most fun one yet, all positive, best player on the team, no negative notes. And he said, I really tried to find something like an area of growth or something to pump the brakes on, but the dude is just rock solid. And so even when you try to nitpick the numbers any way you want to find something negative with Kage Casey, I'm sure as a coach, Brad, I mean, they're not sitting in there saying he's a perfect player. They're getting on him about different things or whatever. But in terms of the numbers and the outside perspective on this, it's tough to find something that you didn't like. And you look at some of this last year, guys, he led the Mountain West offensive tackles, 83.4 Pro Football Focus grade. That was the 7th best Pro Football Focus grade amongst all left tackles in the country. And he was a solid run blocker. Let's see here. This is during his redshirt freshman year 2 years ago. He allowed 27 pressures and 2 sacks in 2023. Worked on that last year. And last year, guys, only allowed 6 pressures all season and 0 sacks. 6 pressures, 0 sacks all season. 99.3 pass block efficiency, the best of any left tackle with 300 pass blocking snaps. And this is one of the craziest stats I've got, guys, maybe that I've ever heard. You mentioned how many snaps last year? 900 and something, Brad?
947.
You look at his career, 1,788 career snaps. 1,788 career snaps in his career. And he's been called for 1 penalty. 1 penalty for Kage Casey in his career. I mean, that is That's pretty hard
He's
to
at
do.
least-
Both you got me. I don't know how many.
he's
I don't know
at
what
least
the
a personal
percentage is,
foul.
Michael, on penalties. But I mean, as an O lineman, as a tackle, Brad, how hard is that in 1,700
crazy.
snaps to have one penalty?
That means he is a master at holding.
Anybody have it? Anybody know?
It's not hold. First of all, it's not holding. So don't let Mike bitch. Okay, it's not. Okay, it's not holding if you get away with it, right? It's like if you can take the cheap shot and nobody sees it, you take it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's life, right?
That's
Like,
actually
people
what.
around-
That's actually what
You've
he.
been around me, Mike. I mean, it's like it's even
No,
in practice. If you get a chance to finish it, and it's not, it's you play through the end of the whistle. It's not
Yes.
when it starts blowing, you start backing up. No. You put them down and you move on. And that is okay. Let's take holding out of it. Full starts at a
Yep.
tackle position in on the road.
At Oregon, at some of these places they played.
I mean, are you kidding me? I
the
mean,
one-
his peripheral vision. Because remember, when you're in 3rd and 7+ and he goes to a 2-point stance and he's at left tackle, so your right eye, you got to stare straight ahead, see where the D end is. So you're staring straight ahead, right? Unless you're hearing the clap, which at Oregon, I never played at Oregon, but I mean, it's one of the loudest in the country.
Yeah.
So you have to see that ball through your peripheral vision through your right eye, and him never having. Well, I don't even know what the penalty was, but not even having 10 false starts is amazing. He didn't have one. Not that I understand.
It was a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty this past season against Nevada.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
If you're going to take the penalty, take the penalty.
Yeah.
I love it. If you're going to have any penalty, that's what you want.
Yes.
I mean, I did. Not even a full. So that makes even
Probably somebody
it's
took an
not
extra
even a full
cheap
start.
shot. Somebody took an extra cheap shot at Genty or something, and he probably pushed the guy down or something. I don't know.
Good for him. That's
Yeah.
if I want a penalty to hear, that's the one I wanted to hear.
You're right. I mean, the holding's one thing, but the false starts, all the other, opportunities for illegal hands to the face, right? That gets called on the offense sometimes when the guys getting their hands up there. And there's so many options for 1,700 plus career snaps to have one penalty. I mean, is that something that will look well on his resume for NFL teams, Brad?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I've never heard of that. I mean, it's just he's just a solid. I mean, it's just another positive check mark, right? And I think first round, second round doesn't matter. But as he shows another year of development, and the other thing is in. Now this is what I just don't want people to do. All of a sudden now he does have a bad play. Now we're getting to the nitpicking time, right? And you're going into some, once again, Boise's going to play some top tier talent, with Notre Dame and things like that. But he could play. I think he's in the starting 5 anywhere in the country, and
Yeah.
And he's solid, like we've said, but that's hard to me to fathom one penalty in 1,700 snaps.
In that penalty, you'd be proud. He got all of it. It was on it was on a touchdown. I remember this clip. I didn't realize this is his only penalty, but he got 100% of that penalty. Like, if you're going to do it, you might as well commit to it. And he fully, I want to say it was 3 seconds after Ashton was already in the end zone. He's still going. And on the tape, you see him probably pass the entire Broncos thing in the end zone going towards the right. And he's still going. And he finishes them. Like I said, 3 seconds after the whistle, after he's already scored and the band's playing. But for that to be the only penalty, when that's a statement penalty, in my opinion.
I hear you. It's like
That's
going
awesome.
to the buffet. You don't stop at 7 plates. You go to your 8. Take
Exactly.
advantage. I mean, you kidding me? He should have chucked him over the wall. Went straight blindside.
He was in the area. That's what I'm saying. Like, he was close enough to do it.
That's what I'm
Mike,
talking about.
like I said, I know you probably didn't a ton obviously line up against him, but just going across him and knowing where he was and being in those meetings during fall camp and stuff like that. What as a defensive line, defensive line, what were what are the challenges of going against a guy like that?
Well, if my responsibility was contain on any call and I was containing through Kage Casey, I was just getting outside because I'm not going to beat him. I stand no chance of beating him inside, no chance of beating him outside on the contain rush, just because he just, like, the way that his eyes would snap back and immediately clock us, I mean, we had a very hard time against him. But in the run game, obviously super physical, super smart. I think his football IQ, I don't know if this will make too much sense, but taking on double teams from an offensive tackle kind of feel different when someone actually knows what they're doing versus when someone's throwing their body into you, because he does it with purpose and that he's working with the guard to climb to the next level, versus when you go up against typical Mountain West O linemen, you kind of just feel a bunch of mass on you and they kind of don't know what they're doing half the time. So he's very advanced in that aspect, just off of what I felt personally over the past 2 years. The steps that he took from fall camp 2023 through that season to fall camp 24, then through this season, was crazy. I mean, he was good in 23, but he turned into something else in 24. It was tough any time that you had to get up against him during camp. So he just is, like I said, probably the most technically advanced offensive lineman I played against at Boise State. I mean, that's his thing. He's a freak, but he's also just a technician at the same time.
Kage Casey, number 3 on our list. We'll continue this discussion in 30 seconds here on Bronco Nation News.
Bronco Nation News is presented by our title sponsor, RovePaint.com. Our major sponsors, Idaho Central Credit Union, Taco Bell, Lithia Ford, the Blue and Orange Store, Jackson's, and our contributing sponsors, Signature Roofing, Western Collective, Snake River Pool and Spa, Transportation Compliance Service, Boucher Real Estate, Ridley's Family Markets, Circa Las Vegas, Lean Feast, and Timberstone Golf Course.
All right, Brad, I ask a lot of dumb questions on here to you, so I'll throw another one at you, another obvious dumb question, but maybe you can just explain this to folks out there. How nice of a luxury, I guess, is it to have a Kage Casey for this offensive line and for Maddox Madsen, and what can having a guy like him at left tackle, like, just what kind of safety blanket is that? What does that allow Nate Potter to do with this offense, with the dropbacks? Just for Maddox Madsen to know he has a guy like Kage Casey protecting his blind side, so to speak. What does that allow the rest of the offense and him to do here? And how huge is that going into the year?
It's actually a good question, because you don't have to worry about the one-on-one all the time, right? So it allows you to – you can have a choice, right? You can allow that one-on-one slide away from Kage Casey, the left side, to blitz purposes, things like that, and then he can have a chip if he even wants it. Or the quicker to that man's side with the back going out gets out, can pull defenders out and open up the passing game, right? So if you don't, back, when you're going left, you have a free release. Don't even worry about a chip. Don't even worry about the delay. Just get out. You can drive a corner down in cover 2 and drive defenders down to get the back out quicker, right? And it can open up some of your things in the passing game. The other thing is with his experience in the snaps, is him seeing, let's say they're on the left hash, and he sees that safety off the hash, knows corner's coming. He can see that and alert it, and then now we can direct the slide, pick up that, and so you don't have to worry about that. He's almost he can almost be like a quarterback on the field to that side, right? So he's a center's help on seeing the boundary and seeing the safeties and things like that. But it's also we got a really good DN we're playing against this year. We like the matchup. We don't have to slide to that DN to get the guard out for the double team all the time. So in that regard, it helps a lot. And so it's just it's a thing where some quarterbacks, even in your 5-man protection, they automatically want to slide that to the left side because the quarterback does not want to get hit in the back of the head, right? So it doesn't, like, I can go back to Green Bay with Brett Favre. When he was in his 5-man protection, and let's say they were going to slide to the right, we were going to slide to the right, he goes, no. He directed us to the left because he wanted to see everything in his face. So that's a benefit where now Madsen can direct protection, all that. Go, I know my left tackle's fine. What do I have on the right? Like, what's going on over here? So I'm not worried about getting hit in the back of the head. So that's a huge luxury because the quarterback takes a few shots in the back. It's tough. They want to see everything in their face.
What do you think, Mike, in terms of not just him, but I mean, you got 4 starters coming back and having Roger there and having Mason back and just, these guys that have all this experience coming back. What do you make in terms of just Kage over there and just this offensive line, I guess, as a whole here this fall?
Yeah, I think that's, you talk about that kind of experience. Like, I think that's where it gets fun for these guys, between just Kage, Mason, and Roger. That's a lot of football played already. And outside of that, you have Hall Schmidt coming back as well. So that's, a good 10 to 12 games there that was started last year. So you have a ton of experience with this offensive line. And like you said, my coach was just breaking down the protections with Kage. That's an incredible luxury for Mad Dog and these guys too, because they don't got to worry about Kage. And you really don't have to worry too much about, the Mason and Rogers, because those are both, those are, my opinion, Mason might be the best center pass pro that I've ever played against. Centers typically, come in and help. Mason can completely take over, either a shade or a stunting 3-tech and it's not kind of just being filler. Like, Mason will completely take over that one-on-one and dominate. So I think having those guys in there just opens up, you can do a lot of things with the protection off of anything that they see. And these guys are going to see it too. So working alongside Mad Dog, and at the end of the day, if Mad Dog sees something, these guys are going to have no problem saying, all right, screw it, we're going with what Mad Dog's saying here on this call versus where they want to slide to or whatever they see. And, I just think at the end of the day, this experience is going to be fun for these guys to work together, especially having this left tackle that opens up so much more for these guys.
What, Mike, I don't know if you can think of any in particular. I don't know if they've had any first round, but there's been some decent left tackles, you've played against, obviously, during your time, at Boise State, but, or right tackle, wherever, just that impact lineman that, is the one guy. Like, what's that like as a defensive line when you guys are game planning for that week in meeting rooms? How much attention is there on one guy versus just the group as a whole? And what's that like? And what are opposing defenses this year going to be talking about and doing, when they know they have to go up against Kage Casey?
Yeah, for sure. I remember 23 were game planning all summer for University of Washington. And that offensive line ended up winning the
Remington.
Thanks. So they ended up winning that. And they had
and the Joe Morrow. That was a Scott Huff line.
Yep. Coach Huff's line that year. They had Troy, can't pronounce his last name, but he was their left tackle. He was a first-round pick, the Steelers that year. The right tackle was a second-round draft pick. And they had 2 more draft picks on that offensive line over the last 2 years. And then the other one's a starter at Alabama now. So game planning for that offensive line and seeing the way that those guys were able to – it wasn't necessarily the run game because that was the Michael Penix year where they were throwing the ball all over the yard. And those dudes in pass pro, I mean, it was different. I never saw it. I didn't see it against Oregon this year, and I didn't see it against Penn State. Like, I mean, those guys in pass pro specifically were the most fundamentally and technically sound guys I've ever played against. And I feel like this O-line has a pretty good opportunity to be around that level of an offensive line, both from a run game perspective and a pass game perspective. I think the run game's where this O-line is really going to be able to separate themselves because these dudes are physical as They're, like I said, tons of experience, probably the most experienced offensive line returning in the Mountain West in a lot of these other schools because, they consistently rotate in and out. But I mean, this offensive line with those three guys have the opportunity to be similar to that UW offensive line 2 years ago, in my opinion.
Well, the other thing to answer that question, BJ, which is going to be interesting to see through the course of the season, is this. And I saw it with some O linemen, Ezra was one of them, is after study, they will not put the major pass rusher on Kage Casey. They'll move.
They just give that side up. We're not going to score. We're not going to get by anyway. Let's not try.
Once looking at how technical sound he is, staying square, things like that, they'll move him. They'll go, okay, you're going to attack the right tackle. We're going to kind of switch some things around. And when we do get to that side, we're going to play some games. We're going to try some pit games and things like that to get on some edges to create some mishap on the left, on the defense's right, Boise State's left, and put the one-on-one as much as we can on somebody else, because they've just said, hey, this guy's really good. We don't like that matchup, even with our best pass rusher. So we're actually going to move him, and we're going to either put him on a guard and stand him up like Penn State tried to do with that one we talked about before the game, or just put him on the right tackle. And I want you to take advantage of that possible situation, that matchup where you're just going to go over here. And if the one-on-one happens when we get into third and long and some known passing situations, play some games, some line games to the left to try to create some pressure through game plan rather than just do one-on-ones all the time and watch their defensive end just get manhandled.
So not that Boise State needs it. Genty did it. Everybody did it. But, I mean, Boise State keeps hitting these milestones. If Kage Casey could be a first-round draft pick this year, it'd be the first time in Boise State history they'd have back-to-back first-round picks. What would, if anything, Brad, that do? I mean, would that at all be a big deal for Boise State? You back up Genty with another first-round pick the next year in terms of just the continuing, whether it be with recruiting or national relevance or anything? I mean, or is there kind of proof in the pudding at this point, and does it not really matter?
I mean, it's kind of proof in the pudding a little bit. I mean, I think it's always big to have multiple first-round picks. I really do. I think it helps nationally. It does help recruiting. It helps all that. But it's kind of like it doesn't – I'll go back to this. Boise State, in my opinion, is a national brand. And it's going to come to the point of going into this new conference and getting more limelight, getting more exposure and things like that. It's just going to go, okay, Boise State's got another first-round pick. Let's move on. I just don't – it's a – eventually – and I'm not arguing that. I think it's a good point. Don't get me wrong, but eventually it's just like, cool, we got a first-round pick. That's what we do here. Let's move on to win the next conference title and make the playoff again. It's got to be that rather than, Boise State's going to have back-to-back. If you look at it, and this is the Mountain West and draft picks, especially on the O-line and the running back, once Boise State starts getting the conversation of having multiple quarterbacks drafted, you've hit a milestone. Boise State hasn't had a quarterback drafted in a long, if ever, right? So now, if we're talking about quarterbacks getting drafted, Boise State's hit a milestone. When it comes to DBs, D-line, O-line, running backs, and I would say even wide receivers a little bit. They haven't had a lot of draft picks at wide receiver. So, we've had some as of late, right? So I think once you start talking about the quarterback, that's a milestone. And, with this, it's just like we're a national brand. We have another first-round pick. We'll have another one. I just think that's the way it's going to go, and that's the way it should be with a national brand that Boise State has.
It will be nice with the O-line, though. We talked about that streak, though. I mean, Ezra was the last offensive lineman drafted, I believe, in 2020, was the last offensive lineman drafted from Boise State. So it has been, 4 or 5 years since an offensive lineman has gotten drafted. But you go Ezra Cleveland in 2020 in the second round. We mentioned Riso Diambo was third round in 2016. Charles Leno, 7th round in 2014. Matt Paradis was 6th round in 2014. Nate Potter, 7th round in 2012. You keep going back further and further, and we've talked about these guys. Ryan Clady, obviously first round, but he would be the second, first round offensive lineman for Boise State. It'd be nice to have another first rounder, I guess. But does that do anything for you, Michael? Just if you can get in first round, and I mean, obviously, it'd be cool to have another guy you could say you played with that was a first round pick. But obviously, that would be a big deal for Boise State. But as Brad said, maybe it's becoming less of a big deal, which kind of shows where Boise State's gotten to.
I'm kind of with coaches thinking on this. I mean, don't be wrong. For Kage, the person, for himself, I'd be so pumped up if he went in the first round. But like Coach was saying, Boise State is a national brand, and if we are going to continue to be that brand, I know that first-round talent's hard to come by, but there are guys that are plenty good enough to be first-rounders. You just mentioned Ezra. I mean, Ezra is going into year 7 in the NFL on his 3rd contract or whatever. I mean, that he's playing like a first-round guy. And there's plenty of – I mean, even Khalil Shakir. I mean, Khalil Shakir is the number 1 option for the Bills, and he was drafted in the 5th round. I mean, that just kind of those kind of guys coming from Boise State. So don't get me wrong, it would be awesome for Kage. And do I think he deserves it? 100%. But for Boise State as a whole, I feel like our identity as a program is pretty established at this point in terms of our NFL plans.
It's interesting you said that with that list, BJ, is think about that list right there. You didn't have one bust. All of them are going to play in the league 7 years plus. Matt Perez is a Super Bowl champion. Jay Leno was in the Pro Bowl, right? All multiple year guys. And then you could take the undrafted free agent. Mark Henry was an undraftable free agent. He played 6 years. Molchon, undrafted, won a Super Bowl in Tampa. John Molchon, undrafted, still with Tennessee. Mm-hmm. So it's not – it's everything that even the past guys, even with Scooter, with God, his name slipped me. I can't believe this. Before Scooter was Strauss, thank you. And then, other guys, Keene, myself, they've all had guys get in the National Football League but make it, right? The 5th round picks, $60 million deal with Shakir, right? So it's just it's where you get drafted. I agree with that. But eventually you have to live up to the bill. And at a 1st round, 3rd round, 2nd round, like, okay, you better be in this league for 7+ years to have multiple starts. Where I think Kage is in that conversation. There's not a doubt in my mind. Now, as we get through the season, and that's when the draft comes back, now we're seeing, okay, where is he going to play in the National Football League? Is he going to be guard? Ezra moved down to guard. And so there's a lot of things that can happen here, but he needs us. You got the target on your back now. Everybody's talking about a 1st-round pick. I read something to get ready for the show that Sports Illustrated has an article out. It came out I don't know when, lately, and it had the Niners drafting him in the 1st round, right? In the way too early mock draft. There's a reason why it's tagged way too early, right? I mean, I hate to be the Debbie Downer here, but he needs a good year. He not only needs a good year for himself, he needs a good year for Boise State football, right? So, I think it's awesome conversation. Let's not put the cart before the horse. And I think that a strong year, yeah, he's going to have the opportunity to go to wherever the draft's going to be. There's not a doubt in my mind. And I think, and I'll go back to my original statement, I think this young man needs to be in the conversations for the national awards.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I guess final thing, Brad, how does that, I mean, is it just being at a bigger school where you get more games on TV and more attention? Is it just, I mean, can you show on tape against lesser players, I guess? Is it the Notre Dame game that could be his breakout game, or what? How does he get himself in the conversation?
I mean, I think 947 snaps with 0 sacks is your breakout season. It's going to be hard.
One penalty.
I just think he needs to continue to develop, and where, Coach Keene and that staff feel there are some weaknesses in his game. There are weaknesses in his game. I'm not there behind the tape. I can pinpoint 2, but I'm not going to do it. But where he develops, because those weaknesses become strengths, it's just going to solidify later in life where he's going to go, right? And so we're talking about him. He's really good. But there's some things now that he does need to work on that can be exposed at the next level. And now when you're coaching him, it's like, hey, great, that worked there, but where you're going, you're going to get your butt whooped. That right there, what you just did is if you're playing in the National Football League, that ain't going to work. You're going to get your ass kicked. So you can coach him differently now. You can challenge him in a different way. You got to hit those little you got to kind of twist that knife in there a little bit. I was like, okay, great. You did a great job. You're going to be all conference. But where you're going, that's not going to work. And so now you can coach him at a different level than some of the other guys in that room. No disrespect to the other guys in the room. I don't want to hear it. But that's just life.
Those numbers that you have on Kage Casey are ridiculously good. Candid Trader says, I honestly think he could go higher than Genty, 5th overall in the draft. So he's got some work to do probably for that. But I guess that's something he can shoot for. Genty was the highest at 6. Can he? Maybe he can have a great year and get higher than that. Maybe that's the goal that's left out there for him. But
let's not get overboard, because as of right now, he's not even in the top 10 tackles rankings in some of these people. So let's not. I mean, 5th. He's going to go 1 through 4 on a quarterback class. It's arguably the best in the past 5 years.
By the way,
I hope he does, man. I hope you're right. If he is right and he goes 1 through 4, drinks on me at the James for an entire night.
There you go. You heard it here. When Kage Casey goes top 5 ahead of Ashton Genty, Brad Bedell is buying out the James for the day for
top 4, not top 5, top 4.
Higher than Genty, so he's got to go 5th or higher. Genty went 6th.
Yeah. So hey, here we go. James on me. I'll put down the card for 5 hours.
There we go. All right. I've never wanted something more than now we can root for that. But by the way, Tequila Gus, guys, checking in from Central Park in New York, watching today, says morning boys. So appreciate him. We got Bend, Oregon checking in. We got all kinds of spots here, folks. Vlad says, can you imagine how proud the parents of Charles and Jay Leno must be? One kid is an NFL player. One kid is a world famous comedian. Amazing.
That's awesome.
Not the same parents. Come on now. Let's see what else we got here. Last question. Who replaces him when he leaves? Is that guy on the roster right now? You thinking about that?
That's a great question. You know what?
Slide over to the other side or something. Maybe we'll have to see. But
I want to answer that. I want to see what the Ohio State kids got before I answer that.
And we do have another question. We do have a question. Our next series starts next week. It's the 20 biggest questions facing the team. So it's more position-based and not necessarily individual, but it's more big picture questions. And I think one is on the offensive line in general. So we can maybe discuss that next week since we're low on time here. But that's a good problem that Tim Keene doesn't have. He'll worry about that next summer. Right now, he's happy to have Kage Casey, and he'll worry about the left tackle spot for 2026 in December. I mean, I know he's worried about it. He's recruiting, doing all that. I get it. But, I mean, he's very happy with his current left tackle, and that's not at the top of his list. Who's the left tackle in 2026 right now? So
I would agree with 100%.
Yeah. Hey, appreciate both of you guys for jumping on. By the way, Boise State basketball did announce Nato, the Angolian point guard they brought in. You can go to my Twitter feed. It's on there right now. Nato is the point guard they brought in, and they're excited about him. We'll tell you more about him. He came over from the NBA Academy in Africa. He's Angola is his native land, and Mike Burns, some of the coaches have put in a ton of time and effort going over. Where was the craziest place you ever went recruiting, Brad Bedell? We saw Tim Keene was over in Germany and stuff. You ever go international at all, or?
No.
Okay, but California.
The wildest. I mean, not wild, but I don't know. I recruited Compton, California for some
years. We've heard some of those stories. Yeah, pulling up at some of the houses. Yeah. Oh yeah. I've heard like some of the areas in Dallas and stuff Dallas area can be kind of rough as well when you're pulling into some of those spots.
Yeah. LA, you don't pull in, you get picked up and brought in.
Well, tomorrow with Mike Prater, we'll talk more about NATO on the basketball side, and we'll give you some more details on that. Maybe we can get Coach Moats or somebody to pop on. But, you can check Twitter and everything for the basketball news. Appreciate both of you guys for jumping on as well. Michael Callahan, Brad Bedell. Always a pleasure, guys. Appreciate you. And we'll hope to continue this next week.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. There they are, Brad Bedell, Michael Callahan. Hope you guys have a great day. Appreciate you guys for jumping on. Go check out BroncoNationNews.com. You can read Nathan Carroll's article, more detailed look at the numbers when it comes to Kage Casey. And a fun discussion today, talking offensive line. And appreciate our two guests. Appreciate all of you guys for checking us out as well. And we'll talk to you with Mike Prater tomorrow at 9 a.m. Bronco Nation News Live here at BroncoNationNews.com. Have a good day, everybody.
Bronco Nation News is presented by our title sponsor, RovePaint.com. Our major sponsors, Idaho Central Credit Union, Taco Bell, Lithia Ford, the Blue and Orange Store, Jackson's, and our contributing sponsors, Signature Roofing, Western Collective, Snake River Pool and Spa, Transportation Compliance Service, Boucher Real Estate, Ridley's Family Markets, Circa Las Vegas, Lean Feast, and Timberstone Golf Course.